I remember sitting down with my wife and she said to me, well, the biggest problem you've got is you're a one-trick pony. You're one of the best in the world at buying and selling businesses. But what else are you going to do? I said, well, I've got two things. Number one, I don't want to be flying all over the world doing deals. Number two, I can't work for anybody else. I need to work for myself now. It's time to become an entrepreneur and do my own thing. So my wife said to me, why don't you become a business broker? I thought, great idea. I can buy and sell businesses for other people, small businesses. And, you know, I don't need to be flying all over the world. I can do it locally. I can draw a 50-mile radius from my house in Lancashire, and I can just buy and sell small businesses. So that's what I decided to do. So I set myself up as a business broker. So I built a website and opened a bank account, and I'm sat there, and I'm in one of the bedrooms in my house. I had a home office, and I started looking for deals. So I'm doing networking. So I'm on LinkedIn and talking to some people that I know, lawyers and bankers and accountants and various things. And one of my friends calls me and says, hey, I know a company that wants to sell. It's a large transport company. It's probably worth £3-4 million. Do you want me to set up a meeting? Yeah, absolutely. So they set it up and I went down and I had the meeting. So I goes in, it was two brothers, Colin and Alan. They were in their early 60s. They built this transport company from scratch over about 30 years. Both wanted to retire and they wanted to sell the company. So I said, so what do you want to do? Well, we want a lot of money for it. You know, it's a really valuable business. Go and find a buyer. So when you're selling a business, it's actually quite straightforward. You create something called an information memorandum, which is like a brochure. Like when you buy a house, you get a brochure of the house and all the features of it. So you do that, you include the financial summaries of the business, and then your job's to go and market that to all of the people that you think would be interested. So I called like the top 10 largest transport companies that were within 100 miles, sent the brochures out, went and had a few meetings, and then we got an offer, which was for about £4.5 million to do the deal. Now, when you work as a business broker, you get a little kind of fee up front, which covers your kind of traveling and expenses and various things. I think I got about £10,000 as an upfront fee. But then where you really make money as a business broker, where you should make money, is something called the success fee. So you get a percentage of the sale price, and mine was 5%. So I was looking at around £220,000 as a fee, which, even though I'd made a lot more money than that in my life, was still a lot of money. That was really going to set me up as a business broker. This was my first deal. And I've worked on this deal like pretty much full time for like 6 months. And I'll never forget, it was the day before the closing. So the deal was closing on a Friday, and this was a Thursday night. And the rain's beating down. I'm in my office. I'm just going through like all the legal docs and making sure everything's all in place for everybody to sign. And I get a phone call. It's about 6:30. Gets a phone call from the owner of the business, Colin, and he's in floods of tears. And this is a big, gruff, Liverpudlian trucker, and he's really upset. And he's like, "We're pulling the deal." And I'm like, "No, you can't pull the deal. I've got £250,000 nearly as a fee due to me tomorrow. You know, I need that money." It's like, "We're pulling the deal." So I had to go down. So I got in my car and I drove down, and the weather was awful. It was lashing down the motorway. I had to drive about 40 miles to go to see the company. And I goes in the office, and he called like an all staff meeting. So all of his drivers are in there, all of his office workers are in there, and Colin and Alan, the two brothers, they're in the building. And they said, "Look, we're pulling the deal because the company that was buying us, which was a company that was valued at about 50 million, so it was buying a small business, which is called a bolt-on acquisition, they were basically going to asset strip the company. All they wanted was the customer base. They didn't need any of the drivers because they had their own. They didn't need any of the employees because they had their own. They just wanted basically the warehouse for the storage, some of the trucks, and they wanted the customer base." And the brothers said, "We can't do that. We can't take all this money and go and retire on a beach knowing that all these employees that started with us and have served us are going to be put in harm's way, because when a trade buyer buys another company, often they'll let a lot of the employees go, make them redundant, and they're not going to have money to pay their mortgages, feed their families, And they said, we just can't do that. We're not going to do that. So he said, you need to go and find a buyer of this business. Maybe it's an individual that will not do that. They have to write into the legal contract that they won't asset strip, they won't fire any employees, and that they will continue to trade the business as a going concern. And I don't know what possessed me. So I'm stood there and all of these faces are looking at me. And I don't know what came over me, but I looked him in the eye and I said, I will buy the business. And they started laughing. He said, you're going to buy the business? I said, yeah, I'll buy the business. He's like, well, how? You don't know anything about the transport industry. I remember you telling me you were a HP guy, you did software deals. I said, well, I've pretty much worked full time in this business for the last 6 months, pulling all the numbers, building that prospectus, helping with due diligence questions, really understanding how your business model works. I said, I think I could own this business. I said, and with your permission, what I'd like to do, he said, I can't get you anywhere near the amount of money that the trade buyer was promising you. But I said, I reckon I can get you just under £2 million in total. I'll pay you half up front because I can finance the building, I can finance the trucks, and you've got a lot of surplus cash sat in the business. So I will use that money to give you a closing payment, and then I'll pay you the rest of the money over the next 3 years. We'll basically split the profits that the business is generating, and that's called seller financing. I said, and what I will do, I pointed at the transport manager, I pointed at the financial controller, and I pointed at the head of sales, and I said, I will give each of those people 10% of the company. That was the management team of the business. I said, and we'll run it together. And he looked at me and he said, I'll give you 30 days. If you can pull that off and we'll help you, you can buy the business. And everybody started clapping. Yeah, we're going to do it. So that was my first deal. That was the first business I bought using a model called a leveraged buyout, an LBO, which is buying a business using other people's money. So I didn't invest a single penny of my own money into buying that business. I used bank financing by using the assets in the business to generate some cash. I used the surplus cash that the business had in the bank as well. And then I just basically paid the rest of the money for the business over time by basically taking the profits that the business was generating every month and giving half of it to the previous owners and then half of it for me and my 3 new minority partners that were basically running that business for me. And what was great for me in doing that deal is I didn't have to operationally run that business. The 3 people that were now my partners were doing all the sales, doing all the financing and doing all the operations. I was just there, I suppose, as the owner investor, like as a chairman. So I went in every day for the first 2 weeks just to kind of put my own cultural kind of spin on things and change up some of the processes. And I put things in like KPIs so that we could track our performance all the time. And then I would just go in once a week and just see how things were doing. And I owned that business for about 2 years. And then after a couple of years, my 3 partners turned around and said, so can we buy you out? We'd like to own this business between us. We'll buy you out. You'll get some money out. Let's just refinance the deal like you've shown us how you did when you bought it. So that was my first deal. And then since then, I've bought lots and lots of other businesses. Most of them have worked and done really well. Some of them haven't. But when you're buying a business and you're not taking any risks, so you're not putting any of your own money in, you're not signing any personal guarantees, then if the business fails for whatever reason, then you can just walk away, learn from it, and move on to the next deal. You're not taking any personal financial risk by doing those sorts of deals. So that's how I got started really as a deal maker and building my own portfolio of businesses.